Welcome to the Energy Espresso podcast. Power Hour is a monthly episode where Dave Bosco and Travis Simmering get together once a month to talk about power, life, and golf, and how innovation is reshaping the energy world faster than ever.
Welcome to the Energy Espresso and this week's episode of the Power Hour. My name is Dave Bosco,
Travis Simmering,
and we appreciate y'all joining this week. So you're getting a little preview of the temporary powerhouse. It's not the most glamorous setup, but we're going to do a little competition today to break things up a little bit and kind of add a little gimmick into it.
Yeah.
Travis, why don't you tell them what we're going to get at?
So what we did is we hit a couple balls on this putting green right here in front of Dave, but we had to use each other's putters because I'm one of these weird left-handed guys. So Dave made me go right-handed. Dave went left-handed. Spoiler alert, the guy you expect to win didn't win.
And some other similarities.
That was not a bad putt.
Not terrible. Not great. That's not going to get it done.
Do you need to use that as a seat to give you some leverage and some
I'm
balance?
getting a little bit of something back here with the table.
Listen, I'll give it to you. You're
not
at least
healthy.
making it up the hill.
The speed is good.
That could be it. Oh, it's
Oh,
come
my
back.
goodness.
You can have another one.
That feels like a redo.
You gotta get all the way up there. It's like putt. Oh,
Yes.
one.
So that's my fourth.
No, you can have another one.
Look at that.
We'll do 5. Look, I'm giving you a gimme. You gotta give me a gimme. This is like a quid pro quo.
We'll see. There it is.
All right.
Real good.
This is weird. All right. How's this gonna work? Is there anything special you have to do to this? You feel like whistling at it?
I can tell you.
Come here, bear. All right. He looks at the putt, gets the footing, little bend in the hips, good fall, back. Oh my gosh!
Just so everybody
Look
knows
at
that
that.
was watching, that started
Yeah.
all the way over here. You're reading a break that I didn't see. Good
Listen,
putt.
I mean, you know how I putt. It's kind of weird. So, I mean, if I could get down and do a pool cue kind of deal, so that's one.
What
And if I make all 4, I'm not going to take a 5th and rub it.
yeah, I
That's okay.
think we may be done here. Next shot.
Ooh, that's all right. That one's dead to me anyway. I don't want that one.
Yeah, I do different.
Okay. So that's 2. Maybe I gotta talk like the Englishman again. Nice and quiet. Focusing on myself here. Putting. Get in the hole! Look
Okay,
at that.
now-
Reading the break
Hold
again.
on. Hold on.
Reading the break
You
again.
like used a bumper.
I did. Well, I mean, listen, this is
It
technically
counts.
the fringe.
It counts.
Yeah, we got to come up with a different rule apparently.
And I don't
You
know
got to go like straight
people on
and
the
narrow.
camera can tell or not, but he has his hands like a righty, so they're back.
Oh, should I be doing this?
Yeah. You
Okay.
can do whatever you want.
Yeah, this
was
is
working.
This is working, even if it's a crooked, shot that makes it in. Like, a hole in one's still a hole in one, regardless how dirty it was.
We have left-handed bank shots going on here.
Oh. All right. Well,
Two.
Hey,
Yeah,
that
we
might
have
be
a
the
winner.
first time I've actually beat you in a golf game.
You
And
did
I
good.
wouldn't put this as beating, right? Because I mean, it's
That's
only what, like maybe 7 feet.
It is 6.5.
All right. So you got to get a couple more.
Under
Travis.
Travis.
I can feel your competitive nature. Like that was a fluke. Oh yeah. See, here he comes, rolling in hot.
I was trying to make you feel good.
It's okay.
Nope. It does curve that way.
It does. I was at PGA Superstore, no plug, no paid sponsorship, by the way, people. And
Shop wherever you like and feel comfortable.
they have lap putters up there
Yeah.
that are like severely discounted. And I was with Chris and the kids, and they were over in one of the stores over in the Woodlands doing some shopping in that like mall where the pizza joint is that we usually go to back in the day. And those lap putters just feel amazing. Like they're another world.
It's the balance, right?
Yes, and they're just like they're firm when you hit the ball, it feels like you give it everything with just a little tap. It's weird.
Oh, trying to get the little.
All right. It was a fluke, folks. It was a fluke. All right. Well, we're going to get to recording the rest of the podcast.
Let's do it.
Good game, my son.
But it was a fair match. It was a fun match.
Yeah, totally was. And that's how golf is sometimes, right?
That's how
And
golf
on
always is.
What player shows up? Instead of coffee today, folks, I've got my, this is actually a little cup that I featured on a podcast I recorded at 5:30 this morning. And Bella had gotten me this, and it says the results of overswinging. And it's got this guy that's like totally turned around, and he's got these little like wind motions going on. But I appreciate my daughter knows my golf game.
Yeah. I love that picture too. His something showing there with him over swinging.
Yes.
My girls like to call that back crack.
Yeah.
Back crack's one of the funniest things.
It's like, is this gentleman a plumber in his part-time?
Yes.
He might just have no
Probably still beats us in golf. So
Definitely. So on the golf topic, Travis, what are we talking about golf today?
I think the most exciting thing the last couple of weeks has been the PGA Championship. Scottie Scheffler came out, smoked everybody.
Scottie.
He made it interesting, more interesting, I think, than everybody expected on Sunday. You thought it was going to be a blowout, which surprisingly enough, some of the stats around the PGA Tour have shown that more people are watching when he's dominating and blowing out the field, which is kind of crazy because you would think it's going to be a boring weekend. He's blowing everybody out. Turns out the amount of viewership is actually really high when that guy is blowing people out. So it just shows how much people really like him.
Yeah.
So,
People can't get enough of Scottie.
no, and he ends up winning by 5 strokes, the PGA Championship. When folks thought, maybe this was going to be a down year, he hasn't won yet, but he's still Scottie. He's still incredible and super fun to watch. So, we had a little bit of a snooze fest with the Colonial this past weekend.
Yeah, it was, look, I wouldn't, categorize PGA Tour level golf as awful to watch, but like, it looked like my golf game. And I mean, that would have been a decent day with, double bogeys and bogeys on the back, no birdies made. It was kind of disappointing.
It was a weird tournament, but it's hard to come back after the PGA Championship and after a major and, make it a super exciting tournament. You got less players that are there. And so
There's human beings too at the end of the day. It shows that they are mere mortals like all of us.
I totally forgot to start this episode. So in the very, very off chance
Okay.
that Vicky watches this,
Ah.
Vicky's my wife, by the way. It is her birthday today. So happy birthday, babe. If you happen to accidentally stumble upon this, I want to make sure that I give her a happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Vicky. We're going to be sending you clips of this, just to be clear, as well as I think there also needs to be, because this is posted on YouTube,
Oh,
we're going to have to post this on all the social channels and tag each other.
it's not spam, babe.
Do we need to sing Vicky happy birthday, or would that be
Oh,
bad?
man. I think you should definitely. I mean, you just
Don't
just
put-
released.
Won't you put
You just
Oh
released
my gosh.
a short shot this morning
I did.
with our good friend Steven Roger, Pro Power Mate, singing some awesome tunes. I listened to it this morning.
It was pretty good, wasn't it?
Really good. I mean, I have heard him sing before, but man, that Round Top song was awesome.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just feel like it's fitting that you should follow up singing my wife happy birthday.
All right, here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Vicky. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, babe. You're welcome.
Cheers.
We'll be all over all of your feeds.
Yes, all the socials.
Awesome. Hey, you never know. She might accidentally come across this, and it would be by accident for her.
So that's awesome. Listen, we need to pump the viewership up. Like, I mean,
I like
we got to tell the kids, like, go on, like, follow, subscribe. Even if, like, we start driving into a lower, age group category, membership is viewership these days. So, one.
No viewership is bad viewership.
No, I mean, shoot. And on the golf topic, like, look at Bryson DeChambeau. Like, I mean, my youngest son and we watched the Bryson videos together.
that's all I see on my feeds is And it's not the good golf. It's actually, for me, I like watching like average golfers play against each other. It's more fun. It's way more relatable.
Yes, it is.
So that's what my feed is full of, is just not great golf, but it's really fun to watch the competitions they come up with, the people they get on there. Like, shoot, you got some of these guys that actually could potentially play on the tour that have decided to just go the YouTube golf route because they can make more money doing that.
Yes.
That's just crazy.
Yes. So shout out to all the YouTube golfers out there,
Yes.
including Rick Shields. I love that guy.
Like,
He's
subscribe.
freaking awesome.
All
Yes.
those.
Listen, we expect some monetization sharing to go on here, fellas. We're growing your viewership.
Yes.
So what's going on in the power markets?
I really want to hear your feedback on probably the biggest one we've seen in the last week or two is the NRG acquisition.
Yeah.
So
Another one.
another one.
Little DJ Khaled.
That's true. It is another one, but by far the biggest one.
Yeah.
Right. So if you look at what they just acquired, 19.5 gigawatts of assets.
It's huge.
From LS Power,
Yep.
really big, reputable generation company. So huge deal, that is coming on the heels of an about 800 megawatt deal, 5.5 gigawatt deals.
Yep.
You're talking about, in the last year or two, I guess, upwards of 25 gigawatts of power.
And some of that even isn't being announced as to the color with the data center deals that they have signed, right? And
Yeah.
that's indicative kind of like words on the street that they're doing something with GE Vernova on, 5.4 gigawatts worth of gas generation?
Yeah, I've seen different numbers out there in terms of, I think they have different partners on different pieces of it, but it's several gigawatts that they're going to develop in the data center space.
It's nuts. I guess my 2 cents on it, I think it just proves everything that, we've known, is that this market is going to continue to go long on power. Natural gas, this is a reoccurring theme, right? It's in vogue. And folks know if they want to flip the switch and get massive amount of electrons delivered to facilities, industrial loads, residential, natural gas is where it's at.
Yeah.
And there ain't no other way to do it.
I like that theme. NRG has been one of these that, like, historically is pretty forward thinking. They got into renewables early. They kind of see what's coming around the curve. So for them to come back into natural gas in such a big way, I think just, kind of hits on everything we talk about on this show and folks are hearing in the papers, is that the firm fuel gas generation is going to be here and here to stay. The total number was 19.5 gigawatts. That's what it was. LS Power was 13 gigawatts. The total that they've acquired is 19.5. We'll make sure we get our facts right.
And I appreciate that clarification because we want to be factual. The other interesting piece of this is you look at, and I know you and I were diving into this, where utilities are trading today and generation companies. I mean, we looked at a couple of different, samples, and in some cases, like, year over year, it's 90%. Some others are 60%. And I think the story there, at least in my opinion, is, a good amount of that is by far driven by data centers and AI. But I think the thesis of we need more electricity, we need more generation resources, the renewable piece of this, which we're going to get into some of the renewable, Hackgate here, is there's a lack of trust in those resources. I'm still a believer of an all the above energy policy. We got to have a mixture because for some people it works. But in general, it's like, shoot, the massive market growth and the recognition from investors going, we see value in these companies long term. It's pretty cool.
Oh, it's really cool. I mean, when's the last time we said utilities were a growth sector?
No,
I just kind of thought as you were talking about it, like, it's weird to think that
it's about as sexy as a man in a romper. It's pretty bad. You see that episode of, Righteous Gemstones yet? Oh, I'm sorry to give that away. It's incredible.
Unfortunately, you in a romper is now stuck in my head, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to get out of it.
I'm sorry. You're welcome.
At least he didn't sing in that, okay? So, no, I mean, it's just weird to say those two words in the same in the same sentence, utilities and growth. It just hasn't been as throughout our careers and our lives, really. Like utilities, they grow at a pretty small clip.
Yep.
Because that's all they've had to. It's not that, they can't grow. It's just that's not in the nature of those companies to have these huge growth trajectories. So really different, interesting world we're in, obviously, that we talk about a lot on the power side. So they're all getting rewarded for it, though.
They are. And I think it's really cool because it just shows like long-term fundamentals in those businesses.
Yep.
So good on you, Mace.
Awesome. So you mentioned this Sabotage.
Yes. Sabotage.
When I was reading some notes on this, I couldn't tell if this was like clickbait.
Oh, it's real.
Dave bait. So I need to understand more about so essentially what we've heard is that the Chinese have put kill switches
Yes.
in U.S. solar farms.
U.S. and U.K. So this was, I went down a rabbit hole because, like I started
Feels like a rabbit
reading
hole
stuff
down.
big time. So it originally came to me on my Apple feed. It's all over the place. And I saw this headline and I'm like, this got to be BS. So I dig into it. It's, some independent, reputable news source from the UK. And I start like searching and going into it. And it's like, this is actually something that's happening. And what was crazy to me is I think the numbers were like 50% of all solar panels, correct me if I'm wrong here, comes from 2 companies that are based in China. And this has put like the
half of the supply in 2023.
Yeah, that was
in from 2 companies.
That was it.
Yes.
And they were both Chinese based.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
But where this is nuts is you think about like the slippery slope here, and everybody was going long on renewables, data centers, utilities, industrial companies, complexes, people at their houses. And now, we've got this, we're exposed from a threat perspective. I don't know necessarily if there is just this widespread like switches being flipped and solar farms being turned off, but it is quite interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting to think that could happen. I haven't heard, I don't think we've widely heard of this actually happening, but to know that the threat is there, that they could be, you think about the supply chain piece of this, and it's very feasible that could happen and go unnoticed in a number of these installations.
Big time.
So
big time.
It's very believable. I don't think we've seen any ramifications of it yet, but who knows? Kind of scary though.
And it was also in active front ends, and which is
what it said. Most of them were in inverters, which obviously is an easy way to kill the power.
Absolutely. Power from solar panels, just for a nerd moment, is DC power, and it has to go through an inverter at that point, or actually, it does a couple of things to create a sine wave. But without getting into the details, that is like the thoroughfare to take DC power and convert that to AC power.
Yep.
So this is interesting, folks. More. I'm gonna be keeping my eye on this one. It's on my follow list. But still, I think YOLO. Natural gas. We don't have any backdoors in natural gas, and power generation facilities are pretty well hardened, specifically because of the critical infrastructure piece, which you would think like solar is kind of considered a critical infrastructure piece. Well, who is asleep at the wheel and doing like the reviews on that technology? Because I've
been a lot of projects in the last 5 to 10 years. Huge growth market.
Yeah.
That's when things get a little tough to manage from a regulatory perspective. So not sure who is asleep at the wheel, but again, it's believable that all of these solar farms are being built, and right in the middle of it, they decide, do a
put it back door
covert operation.
I just wonder, who is the guy who gets delegated the responsibility to sit behind a computer and go, is this the day that we do it? Maybe not. Let's wait a little bit longer.
Well, they haven't done it.
They haven't yet.
That's good.
Yeah, we're not building any solar farms, so we're not worried about it.
Nope, no solar farms. We're going to inspect our equipment thoroughly to make sure that there are no kill switches,
no back doors.
So,
Dan, key action item on the QC list.
That's correct. All right. The next item on the list. The heat is on.
The heat is on.
Don't need that. See what we did there?
It's coming.
See what we did there?
Listen, that's a good song. 80s music, baby.
That is a good song. So what's FERC telling us is going to happen this summer? Are we in good shape? Are we not in good shape?
I think what FERC is telling us is going to be FERCing hot. And you look at, no pun intended. You look at the dynamics of physics, right? Gets hot, air cannot be condensed down is dense as possible to go ahead and create an efficient, well-powered combustion process, right? And this is just what we have to deal with, engines, turbines, in general, all equipment that relies on combustion. And I say by the grace of God, we've gotten a little break in Houston because it's been raining cats and dogs, but
you just did
it. Here we come. But I think it's crazy because we're in the danger zone, right? Big time.
We've been living in the danger zone in Houston in the ERCOT market, but this is, from a FERC perspective,
national.
The national climate combined with demand, combined with retirements, it feels like it's finally hitting a broader set of geography because we've heard this story. And for those of us here in Texas in the ERCOT market, we learned about ERCOT several summers ago, and then in the winter and then the summer again. And so we're getting pretty familiar with this story, but it sounds like the rest of the U.S. is kind of catching up in terms of the retirements coupled with demand, coupled with kind of these weather patterns that are hotter with less wind, maybe overcast, all these types of things that just come together to create a pretty tight power market in terms of availability. So
it's really that reserve capacity more than anybody else. Because if folks aren't familiar with utilities, right, they're regulated, and FERC, ERCOT, whatever your ISO is that you exist in inside of your state or the area you live in, they got to have reserve capacity that people get paid to essentially just sit by the sidelines and wait to go ahead and hit that call switch to say, let's bring some more juice online.
Yep.
If we're getting into that type of danger zone, and, that's exacerbated too by all of the massive loads that are being brought onto the market, it's pretty nuts. You go like, this is what third world countries typically have to deal with. And we are the leader from an industrial perspective in the globe. But it's kind of crazy that, everybody you talk to, like, what do? You put a generator in your house, not in your house, obviously. You don't want to get carbon monoxide poisoning, but hook it up to the back of your house so they
don't recommend
you can control at least some level of creature comforts if the power goes out.
Yep. Yeah, I think what's crazy for me is just hearing this type of stuff pop up so quickly now. It just feels like we don't have a really good grasp on the forecasting combined with the retirements, right? It's just like clearly the weather patterns, we're never going to get that exactly right. But the retirement side and the demand side, like these two should work together at least a little more cohesively than it feels like they are today. But it just isn't happening. I mean, you read these reports and it's not just the weather that's causing this, right? It has to be other things that are happening, which is, again, the demand side, the retirement of around the clock power that is not being backfilled quick enough. But folks make commitments to get some of these assets off of the grid. They do it. And then, demand spikes or the wind stops blowing and your capacity shrinks.
Got to fire something up and there's not enough capacity to do so.
Yep.
Something I've been thinking about, Travis, University of Berkeley, came out with an updated forecast on, what this AI data center market looks like. And their latest forecast, and it just keeps on growing, it's like 76 gigawatts to 132. That's a pretty wide quantum of power, right? But depending on where that slides, whether it's, on the 70 side or somewhere in the middle or the 130, Like, how does the grid support that coming online? And that's by 2029, right? Just by 2029. And you think about, I know I'm about to run down a rabbit hole here, but we're onshoring manufacturing. And the manufacturing we're onshoring is not like people putting devices together. It's all robots. And it's all electrified. It's all automated. And we just have this like compounding effect of like the house of cards, is very flimsy and it keeps on getting stacked very heavily on top. And all of a sudden you just pull or like sneeze by accident and it all falls down. That's a bigger risk that I just see that we are exposing ourselves to as a country.
Yeah.
Is there is no resiliency in our planning right now.
No, and I think everything that you're talking about, the reindustrialization or manufacturing coming back to the U.S., we talk about this all the time. That's likely the next big boom in power. All of those things take significant amounts of power, huge, especially at the scale we're talking about to be able to do it here in the U.S. So that is, maybe not the size of a data center growth trajectory, but big enough to be a problem when we're already struggling to keep up.
It's still significant, especially in the areas that they're building out, like this Foxconn announcement that was made where they are onshoring some of the fabrication of the iPhones just right here off like Fairbanks, North Houston and Beltway 8, right? I mean, you're already talking about that NRG facility that is off 1960 and 249, for example. I mean, that thing is probably, like from the 1970s. That was not built to generate the amount of capacity that has just happened on the northwest side of Houston.
Yep.
It's insane to just go like, you just add these incremental, what used to be like, oh, we can handle that. But it's like, crap. It's a straw that breaks camel's back.
It's not incremental anymore. I mean, these are big, chunky loads that you're bringing online, right? I mean, it's not, everything's electrified. You're not bringing in big machinery that's, mechanically driven or it's run off of something other than the grid or electricity. So it'll be interesting to see who wins out, who gets the power. Data centers seem to be in the front, but I think some of these other more industrialized segments are going to catch up quickly. They're probably in areas that maybe already have some power. Somebody's not going to get power. And it'll be really interesting to see who it is, and how regulations maybe change to actually start, kicking up some new resilient type of plants.
Yeah.
So
the thing that you go to is the individual consumer that really has no choice. I mean, let's face it, the power market, it's like any other market, right? Supply and demand.
Yep.
The consumer has to be served, but, in most cases, you've got, preference, keep industry running, things of that sort, hospitals, key areas of infrastructure. I think this theme of Rethink the Grid, shameless plug, just continues to be in people's minds of, you got to figure out like, how do you control your destiny at the end of the day? Whether you're a consumer, business, oil and gas company, figuring out a way to mitigate the risk of this really impacting your life or your business.
Yeah, decentralization has been around for a while, but I think it's getting more widely accepted, more widely available, and probably even smaller, right, and more accessible. And just like you said, people that are putting in as many generators as they are now for backup.
Yep.
Talk to people about why can't small residential areas be run off of behind the meter generation?
1,000%.
How is that not going to be in the plans moving forward? It's going to be.
Yeah.
So
that almost thinking in the abstract here, right? We've got champagne problems typically in the United States. We're in the fifth or sixth industrial revolution. That's what this whole AI push is kind of being referred to, which I agree with. How do you think, if you're in Africa, Asia, Middle East, South America, you are not a fully industrialized country, okay, just depending on where you're at, right? And those countries are where we were in like the 20s. Infrastructure is being built out. People still burn dung, oil, light their, kids do homework by candles, right? how does this end up impacting the rest of the world? Because, with all the, capital that obviously is being spent on power generation here in the United States, other countries have aspirations and plans. Today, they get their generation, if they're lucky enough, off crude oil or diesel, but they know the transition to natural gas is the way. I wonder what this looks like 5, 10, 15 years from now, when a lot of those infrastructure plans have to be way far out in advance. It's not like, hey, we're going to build infrastructure today and build a power plant. I've been thinking about that. Like, what's your opinion on what that means for the world going forward?
My initial thought is it just slows that down, right? I mean, that's the obvious answer, is that it slows the potential accessibility of that cleaner and cheaper energy to those areas. I know there's a lot of groups that are trying to shift capital and focus over there, but knowing what's happening in the supply chain and with activity here in the U.S. and a lot of the other developed countries, I think it's just going to be a struggle to really get any of these developers, equipment manufacturers, et cetera, to shift their focus to those countries. And unfortunately, that means probably more of the same for those countries, which is sad, but I don't see how it doesn't turn out, any other way with all of the activity going on. And unfortunately, they end up suffering more than they probably are today, or just postponing what they thought was coming. Unfortunately.
Really, I appreciate that insight and totally agree. What I'm curious about is, the migrational shift of humanity, right? If people that, you think about it, like most of those countries, folks have a smartphone, which just blows my mind, right? You don't have air conditioning, you don't have reliable electricity, but you damn well sure can look at TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, see all the news bites.
Can they watch us?
They can watch us. Okay. We definitely need to be advertising in those countries. Because joking, but it's a real freaking problem.
Yes.
But does that create these migrational shifts and patterns where it almost exacerbates, where you get to a point where, okay, you think you've got the problem solved. I know I'm going down like crazy, left field here, but now you have huge masses of populations because everybody's seeing the American dream, what's available in Europe, what's available in Central Asia and things of that sort. And does that end up shifting the problem de facto into the countries that have built out the infrastructure but didn't plan on 20% population growth? And we've all seen people don't go out and like move into rural communities, they move into the cities.
Yep. I think you're right. It probably exacerbates the problem here. How long that takes is probably what time will tell. But yeah, I mean, the accessibility for those folks on their phones, seeing what is possible, is more than it's ever been.
Yes.
So, why wouldn't you try to get to an area where you could give your family the best chance of success and a future and all those things?
Yep. I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. I don't. Yeah, it's crazy. Something we're going to continue covering, folks. And, I think those are really, really interesting topics. They should resonate with people. I almost go back to one thing, going back to Scottie. I know I took a total 360 there, but I was thinking about this because, I could be talking and thinking about 15 different things at once. Has anybody put an algorithm together to go like, if you're a betting man, and you all of a sudden see viewership go up on Scottie, and that's when he starts running hot, do you all of a sudden like start pouring into Scottie going long on that game day? That was crazy, but
I think the betting apps have the best algorithms that you will not beat. Right. That's my 2 cents.
I like it. There might be something.
Theirs are pretty good to where as that's happening, as he's starting to get hot or go on a streak or whatever, the odds start changing. And so, it ends up being probably pretty risky to put a ton of money in for a small reward, but who knows? I mean, it's been interesting to watch. I obviously huge PGA fans. Actually, the other thing that happened today is they announced that the live golfers this next round after their contracts are up are not going to get these big paydays up front.
Oh, really?
So I think it could really shake some things up. Who knows what that means for the future of PGA Tour and Live, but I thought that was pretty interesting that we know the well hasn't run dry in terms of the the capital, but clearly there's been a shift in strategy since they're saying when these contracts come up, which is in the next year or two for most of them.
Yep.
Things will probably change in terms of their strategy on how they're going to build out that tournament and platform.
That's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
I can't wait to find out what the motivation was behind that.
Exactly.
There's like dollars shifting from an investment side.
Yeah.
I mean, you got that money gets printed at the end of the day, but that is not the Saudi
Going somewhere else.
modus operandi is to just say, we're going to abandon this and deviate.
Yeah.
So
more to come.
I like it. No, that's really cool. Travis, awesome conversation, bro.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. And folks, we appreciate you joining the Energy Espresso Power Hour. We're your hosts,
Travis Simmering,
Dave Bosco, and catch us next time, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you.